The final showdown is here. Don Bosco, the priest who dared to challenge corrupt officials, faces his most formidable opponent yet. A government inspector determined to shut down his school, with false accusations flying and his life's work hanging in the balance. Don Bosco must summon all his courage, wit, and faith for one last stand. In this thrilling conclusion to our 3-part episode, witness a David versus Goliath battle that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Will Don Bosco, by divine providence, be able to save his school and the futures of countless poor boys?
The Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco, a project of America Needs Fatima. I'm your host, Adrian Fonseca. Subscribe for new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Howdy, and welcome back to the Miracles and Prophecies of St. John Bosco. I'm Adrian Fonseca, and in our previous episodes, we've seen Don Bosco fight against government opposition and navigate complex legal challenges. Today, in our thrilling conclusion, we'll witness his final confrontation with those who seek to destroy his work. As we dive into this last chapter, reflect on this. How can one person's determination change the course of history? If you were moved by Don Bosco's extraordinary courage, consider becoming a monthly promoter of Don Bosco. Details are in the description box down below or in the comment section, so check it out. Now, let's conclude our inspiring story. In 1860, while the house searches were going on, a high official heard Don Bosco speak of civil rights and school legislation, and had remarked, "You know more about these things than a lawyer. Have you studied law?" "No, I just read up on it a little," Don Bosco replied. He fully trusted in God but left nothing to chance. Thus, in 1863, he also concentrated on things that mattered. As we have seen in his latest battle with the Department of Education, he had devoted time to studying his rights and the means of safeguarding them, and that too had influenced the superintendent of schools to approve the Oratory's teachers and have them finally admitted to the University of Turin without being obliged to take a comprehensive college examination. Such victories of Don Bosco seem to have irritated Chevalier Gatti. Hoping to get even at least once, he managed to induce the Department of Education to authorize an inspection of the Oratory secondary school. Toward the end of May 1863, at 9 in the morning, Mr. Ferri, professor of philosophy and an inspector of academic secondary schools, called on Don Bosco, and after introducing himself and showing his credentials, informed him of the purpose of his call. After a comment on the propriety of repeated inspections of the premises of a law-abiding citizen, who charitably gave free education to several hundred needy youngsters, Don Bosco added, "I defer to authority and am willing to overlook this inequity. Go on with your task. I recommend only that the pupils not be asked inopportune questions or intimidated." Mr. Ferri promised to oblige. A report of the inspector's complete questioning and the boys' answers in each of the 5 secondary school grades would be too lengthy. We shall give just a brief account. Professor Ferri, though courteous to Don Bosco and teachers and pupils, plainly showed that the aim of his inspection was not to examine but to uncover, not to evaluate the Oratory's education but to catch the pupils off guard, not to ascertain the staff's qualifications but their political leanings and beliefs. Bypassing Latin literature, the inspectors chose topics better suited to his craftiness. He dwelt on Dante Alighieri in the upper grades and Italian geography in the lower grades. In some classes, he even called a few of the boys to the desk, pushing his inquiry into the matters of conscience. In Rhetoric 1 and 2, he spent both morning and afternoon sessions on Dante's Inferno, choosing 3 cantos and stanzas where Dante, for political and personal reasons, unjustly criticizes the popes, particularly Boniface, whom he blamed for his exile from Florence. The inspector inquired into the origins of Gauls and Ghibellines, their viewpoints, their contemporary counterparts in Italy. He also asked to which party Dante had belonged, what he thought of the Pope's temporal power, whether the popes had benefited or harmed Italy, and similar wily questions. Seemingly, he was trying to trick the boys into an answer that might give him the pretext to qualify the education imparted at the Oratory as hostile to the present government policies. But thanks to God and the prudent conduct of teachers and pupils, his hopes were dashed. In the lower grades, however, his questions on Italian geography gave him reason to rejoice. In mentioning the region of northern Italy, a freshman threw a slip of the tongue. He used the old terminology, Lombardo-Veneto, as that area was called when it was part of the Austrian Empire. The inspector displayed great surprise and disapproval. "What?" he exclaimed. "Don't you know that in 1859 Lombardy was severed from Veneto? It is now part of the Kingdom of Italy. Do you care so little about your fatherland's glories?" When the teacher remarked that the error was due to force of habit and not to ignorance, the inspector seemed to accept his explanation. But lacking other evidence, he reported this trivial incident to the oratory's damage. One thing impressed him to no end, perhaps despite himself: the silence, discipline, and perfect order in each classroom. Latin 3 with 124 pupils or more convinced him that such orderliness was neither momentary nor feigned, but genuine and sound. As he closed his visit to this classroom, the teacher, cleric Celestine Durando, courteously offered to escort him to the next room. But Professor Ferri tried to excuse him, lest even his momentary absence from the classroom might give so many lively boys an opportunity for some mischief. "No danger of that, Professor," the teacher replied. "No one will speak or move about." "That's hard to believe," the inspector rejoined. "How can 130 pupils sit still when left to themselves?" But he did allow the teacher to accompany him part of the way. "Let's go back now," he said, "and take a look." He tiptoed back, put his ear to the door, and peeked through the keyhole. The boy sat still and silent, as though the teacher were there. "I'd never have believed it," the inspector whispered to Durando. "This is unheard of. It does credit to you and your pupils." What was a marvel for the school inspector was the routine in all the oratory classes, because the pupils had learned to be good not out of deference to men, but in deference to God, not because of rewards or punishments, but because of their conscience. The inspection lasted 2 entire days. On taking leave of Don Bosco, Professor Ferri showed himself quite pleased and gave him the understanding that his report would be highly favorable. Additionally, Don Bosco had every reason to expect such a report because the pupils' answers had been satisfactory. Professor Ferri had the reputation of being a fair, honest man who would not intentionally wrong anyone. But his actions did not match his apparently unbiased words. A few days later, to his shock and sorrow, Don Bosco heard through a friend that the inspector was about to send the Minister of Education a very unfavorable report, whose gist was that disorder, immorality, and political subversion were the rule at Oratory. "I beg to point out to Your Excellency," Professor Ferri wrote, "that at the Oratory there is such hostility towards the government that in its vast complex not one portrait of our august sovereign is to be found." Upon hearing this allegation, someone immediately declared Chevalier Gatti must have had a hand in this. This was by no means a wild supposition, because apart from what Gatti had already done to harm the Oratory, there was the additional fact that one close to him often reproached him and sought to persuade him to be fair and just. This person assured Don Bosco that whatever Gatti had a chance to hurt any institution, a priest or nuns, he boasted as though he had done something heroic and exhilarating. No matter who was mainly responsible for such false accusations, as soon as Don Bosco heard of the report, he tried to forestall its consequences by defusing the bomb before it exploded. As he put it, he sought an audience with Michael Amari, Minister of Education, to whom the report would be submitted. With difficulty, he managed to get an appointment one evening in June. "What can I do for you?" the minister asked. "Inspections continually harass me," Don Bosco replied, "and I cannot learn why. Will you please tell me why? I have always been loyal to my king. If I have done something wrong, I would like to be informed to guard against it in the future." "And who are you, may I ask?" "I am Father John Bosco, director of the Oratory of St. Francis de Sales, whose purpose is to shelter needy youngsters, give them a sound moral and intellectual formation, and enable them to earn an honest living. I'm glad to meet you and congratulate you on your noble work. However, I must warn you not to stray from your praiseworthy goals. I have been told that your philanthropic institution has become a haven for reactionaries, and that even you refuse to follow the directives of school authorities. Therefore, an inspection was authorized. I trust that the inspector was courteous to you and your pupils as instructed. I do not know your instructions, but I assure you that the inquiry was directed to the boys' minds. They were asked questions closer to politics than curriculum. Some pupils were even interrogated on matters of confession. 3 years ago, Chevalier Gatti did the same thing and was censored by Minister Mamiani himself. Certainly this was not the mandate of either Chevalier Gatti or Professor Ferri. Their report is due and I expect that I'll get the information I need. At this point, he rang the bell and sent for 2 gentlemen. They came in shortly, one after the other, and at the minister's invitation took a seat close to him. In the office twilight, they overlooked Don Bosco. If divine providence is moving you to continue spreading the hopeful work of St. John Bosco, consider joining us as a monthly promoter. You'll receive spiritual benefits including mass remembrances and daily rosaries for your intentions. You could also receive beautiful religious items like stunning images of St. John Bosco and Mary, Help of Christians, and books about St. John Bosco's life and his teachings, connecting you tangibly to his enduring work. Your monthly gift, no matter the amount, makes a real difference in lives, helping to shape future generations with Don Bosco's values and wisdom. The link to become a donor is in the description box or in the comment section. Join us in this vital mission and be a part of Don Bosco's lasting impact on the world. As we conclude this incredible 3-part episode, we've witnessed Don Bosco's extraordinary courage, his wisdom, and faith in action. His unwavering commitment to his mission, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, is a powerful example for us all. Let's carry Don Bosco's spirit of perseverance and trust in divine providence into our own lives and challenges. Now, what did you think about today's episode? What stood out to you the most? Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think, and I know others will too. Thank you for joining me today in this inspiring journey. St. John Bosco, pray for us. May God bless you, and Mary Immaculate keep you under her mantle. God love you.